What's up everybody, Chris Murray here, back again for another video, starting off 2018 the right way by showing you how to up your Instagram photos. So what I'm going to do is I'll be taking you through the process that I go through every time I post a photo to Instagram. Today is going to be all about the editing process and what apps I use to take a good photo and make it ooh so crispy. So the app I like to use is an app called VSCO or VSCO, and that is the app I use primarily to do most of my photo editing. So the first thing I'll do is I'll take the photo, open it in the app in VSCO. Very first thing I'll do is I'll apply my favorite preset. So the preset I always use for almost 99% of my photos is C8. So the very first thing I do when I get into the edit is I start to mess with the brightness a little bit. Usually I actually bring it down a little, and then later I'll go and bring the shadows up. Not so much, just until it feels right and looks right. And I don't even mess with the highlights in this app. I used to way back, and then I kind of just stopped because you can't boost them, you can only take them away, and I never want to get rid of the highlights. Even if an image is kind of blown out, you can really work with that. If it's way too blown out, maybe try to bring it back, but it just starts to make the image look pretty flat. So I do not take away or mess with the highlights in VSCO. So I'm in the VSCO app now. The very first thing I did was I chose my C8 preset. Then I go over here into settings, and I'll go all the way down to sharpen. But I usually take the sharpen to about 1.8, 1.9. You don't want to overdo it because then the image starts to look way too artifacty. Right after sharpening, I'll go into clarity and I'll start messing around with clarity around the 4 or 5 range. We talked about shadows, highlights. Then I like to go over into temperature. I kind of always do the same thing every time. If I'm outside, I always push it to a warmer look. It just always looks nicer. The way the sun, it all blends better. So all my photos usually have some warming added to it. And it's not too much. I keep it to around like 0.8. Sometimes I go 1.12 depending. You really have to fill it out because every image is different. The whole goal of all of this is to not overdo your editing process, overdo your image with too much saturation and just making it look crazy. It's just to take the good photo, which the photo has to be good from the start, but you take the good photo and then you just give it just a little bit more just to make it punch. And then when I do interior photos, I always just bring it towards the cooler end, but not a lot. I don't like it to look too blue. So after we do temperature, I'll go all the way down and put a vignette. That I'll add like 1 to 1.5 vignette on almost all my photos. I don't really know a good reason why I do it, I just kind of like it. Then I'll add grain, every single photo. Like I said, I do this process on every single photo, and it's almost exactly the very same settings, and sometimes I mess with it, all depending on the image and the light I had. And I'll set the grain to around 1.8, just to give it a nice little, just a little bit that you don't really notice, but it's there if you really, really look close. And then I'll go and add a fade, and I don't want to add too much of that either because you don't want to wash the image out. Then I'll go all the way back because after you did all that, things may have changed. So I'll go to contrast, and I'll usually either leave it the same or I'll bring a little contrast back into the image in case if I washed it out too much by raising the shadows. And then exposure, I'll double check one more time because I might have made it a little too bright or washed out looking with all my post-processing. And then you could just push on the app and let go and see your changes there. And the photo looks pretty good, so you'll go to save, and then you'll hit these 3 dots here at the bottom, save to camera roll, and your photo is good to go. But once that's all done, I'm going to open up the Instagram app, and let's plug in our photo. So, all right, we got our photo, looks good, looks clean. I try to keep it a 1:1 ratio, which if you want, back in the VSCO app, you can crop to 1:1 just to alleviate all that trouble. I just like the way it looks on the grid and getting all the proper information. But if it's a really, really good image, I'll let it expand a little in the app. So I don't mess with any filters once I'm in the Instagram app. We did all that in VSCO, so I just go straight to edit. The first thing I do is I go to sharpen. And again, I don't add much, maybe 14, 15 sharpen, just to make it pop even a little more. And then while I'm down this way, maybe a vignette, some 5, 6. Again, nothing crazy. These are minor tweaks just to make it pop some more. Brightness, if it looks a little off to you, move it either way. I wouldn't take it above 5 unless absolutely necessary. You can add some more structuring. I try to keep it below 15 if I want to add any. I don't mess with contrast. Warmth, if you think it looks a little too cool, maybe you went crazy in VSCO and this is your final stop to fix that. So again, I try to keep everything under 5 when I'm making that. Ignore saturation, I ignore color. Fade, I bring a fade back in, maybe around 9, 11. Highlights, I always kind of boost the highlights a little bit over here. I'll boost it not too much, around 9, 10. Like I said, everything is staying under 15. You don't want to overprocess your image. And shadows, I actually go the opposite. I bring the shadows up in VSCO, and then once I'm in the Instagram, almost always, unless it looks perfect, I'll bring them shadows back down by like 3 or 4, if that. If you really want to get crazy, you can add a tilt shift if you're getting really jealous with all those people with portrait modes, although the tilt shift option, or the blur option, I forget what they call it, in Snapseed is a little bit more, you can dial it in a little bit more. And then last but not least, you click the very top where that sun contrast looking image is, and they got Lux. And Lux boosts your image all the way to 50. I don't like to do that because it adds a lot of contrast, and if you're not taking a raw photo, the photo just kind of breaks apart. So I usually add Lux to about 7 or 8, and then that is it. Then I hit done, next, and we're ready to post. Now I'll give you some quick advice. Now tags, it's all relative to the photo you're taking. There's no like secret, these are the tags to do. I'm sorry if that's what you're looking for, but I'll tell you how I tag. So first things first is I'll write a caption, and I try to make the caption personal. The way I used to go about it was I would take a photo and I would just have like a really cool quote or something that I thought represented the photo, or just like one line of dialogue from a film I liked. And it was kind of, I tried to take an artsy approach. And I really loved the way the images looked and the words I was choosing, but I wasn't getting the engagement that I've wanted. And I've learned as I've taken more photos is that the more person that you put into the captions of your photos, the more response and the more you can connect with an audience. So if I post a photo of my timeline, instead of just saying like sick timeline or timeline Tuesday, I talk about what I'm editing. When I post a video of my camera, I talk about, if you could check back on my Instagram, I did 30 days of posts on this feature film I just wrapped up on. And every day I just talked about things from that day. So just let the audience know that there's a person behind these photos, and it gives you someone to connect with. It's always nice to have a little bit of dialogue or have a caption that allows a dialogue to engage. Then make sure you tag your photo. Now, I know it looks ugly sometimes. A good way to avoid having too many tags or looking like there's too many tags is you just kind of pile them on top of each other. But tag things that are relevant. So in this photo of my phone and my iMac, which is a pretty basic photo to be honest, it's more the images on the timeline in my iMac. So I have a red camera here. Tag a few, don't get too crazy, but tag a few red user groups. There's red user groups out there. If you have a Canon, same thing, a Sony, same thing. And these are people that are interested in your camera and enjoy the same things that you do and the tools that you're using, and it allows them to look at it. So that's number one, tag the things that are relevant to your post. I'm a part of a few curator groups, IG pages. Essentially these pages just take photos and curate them, and their whole Instagram has thousands and thousands of followers, all based off other people's photos. And this is actually a really good way to get seen and to get your work shared and out there. So I suggest tagging photo curation pages that you connect with and you follow and you enjoy, and eventually, I mean, it happened with me, they'll start picking up on your good work and they'll start sharing your stuff. There's tons of tags out there. Look at what I tag, look at what your favorite Instagrammers are tagging, and just kind of see what everyone's doing, and then you'll kind of find your niche of the tags you like to use. And I use almost the same tags every time because I know my audience as of right now. And then I'll share the photo. And then once the photo's shared, it's still not over as much as you wish it was. We're almost there, it's like 90% of the battle. So then I go all the way down and I have to do hashtags. Yes, it's the hustle's real, folks. You need to be out there on the grind, even all the way down to the hashtags. And we all know they're ugly, but until you get your followers up, it's kind of necessary. And then eventually, once you get a good flow, maybe you can slow down, I don't know. All right, thanks so much for watching, everybody. That should show you how to up your Instagram game really quick to start this new year off. oh so right. With that being said, please like, comment, subscribe. Please follow me on Instagram at CMurray. That's posted right here down below. And stay tuned for the next video, and actually reach out. Tell me what you're looking for the next video so I know I'm making the content that you want to see. Until next time. Why did I do that? I don't know. I don't know what